तो थोड़ा सा रिवीजन। सबसे पहले लर्निंग आउटकम्स में देयर आर 1 2 3 4 5। सबसे पहले हम लोग थोड़ा रिवीजन कर लेते हैं जो हमने पढ़ा है अब तक का। तो ये चैप्टर में फाइनेंशियल पॉलिसी, कॉर्पोरेट स्ट्रेटजी, उसमें वी आर हैविंग द 5 लर्निंग पॉइंट्स। लर्निंग पॉइंट्स क्या वो इतना इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, बट ओवरऑल हमको चैप्टर का ओवरव्यू यहाँ से पता चलता है। स्ट्रेटेजिक फाइनेंशियल डिसीजन मेकिंग और उसका फ्रेमवर्क, स्ट्रेटेजी एट द डिफरेंट हायरार्की लेवल्स, फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग, इंटरफेस of the financial policy and strategic management, balancing between the goals vis-a-vis sustainable growth rate. तो स्ट्रेटेजिक फाइनेंशियल डिसीजन मेकिंग का फ्रेमवर्क जो है उसमें उन्होंने बोला है कि भी कैपिटल बजटिंग जो है हमारा, दैट इज द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, wherein we are required to make the proper selection of the capital investments to be made so that it will increase wealth of the equity shareholders. तो उसके लिए स्ट्रैटेजी हमको बनाना पड़ेगा, फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्सेज का यूज करना पड़ेगा, मैनेजमेंट टीम सही से डिसाइड करना पड़ेगा, so that we will be able to say have the best result in form of maximization of the wealth of the shareholders. स्ट्रैटेजिक फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट उन्होंने 3 लेवल का अलग अलग मैनेजमेंट बताया है। स्ट्रैटेजिक लेवल जो टॉप मैनेजमेंट करेगा, टेक्निकल लेवल दैट इज इंटरमीडिएट एंड ऑपरेशनल एकदम नीचे वाला जो मैनेजमेंट स्टाफ होगा वो करेगा, और वी कैन से दैट्स द एम्प्लॉइज ऑफ द कंपनी। स्ट्रैटेजिक में लॉन्ग टर्म प्रोसेस का डिसीजन और वो जो सीनियर मैनेजर लेते हैं। टेक्निकल में इंटरमीडिएट प्लान बनाया जाता है सो एज टू अचीव द गोल्स एंड इट इज मैनेज्ड बाय द मिडिल लेवल मैनेजमेंट। और ऑपरेशनल लेवल में शॉर्ट टर्म सक्सेस जो भी हमारा लाइक टास्क है वो हमारा मीट हो रहा है नहीं हो रहा है, वो वहां पे हम लोग वी ट्राई टू अचीव इट irrespective of the time horizon. The investment and the financial decisions function involve the following functions. तो इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन आ सकता है। ऑफ कोर्स हम लोग एग्जामिनेशन के और रिविजनरी टेस्ट पेपर के क्वेश्चंस देखने वाले हैं। However, we have observed in the earlier chapters also कि वो लोग हमको इस हिसाब से पूछते हैं। The first is a continuous search for the best investment opportunity. Selection of the best profitable investment opportunity वो भी कैपिटल बजटिंग का ही पार्ट है। Determination of the optimal mix of the funds for the opportunities, यानी कि हमको हमारा कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर कैसे डिजाइन करना चाहिए so that we will be able to get the lowest weighted average cost of capital. जैसे हमने समझा हुआ है कि भाई इक्विटी का फाइनेंसिंग जो होता है वो एक्सपेंसिव होता है, डेट का फाइनेंसिंग चीपर होता है, बट डेट फाइनेंसिंग जैसे जैसे इंट्रोड्यूस करते जाते हैं इक्विटी शेयरहोल्डर्स का एक्सपेक्टेशन बढ़ता जाता है। एस्टैब्लिशमेंट ऑफ द सिस्टम ऑफ द ऑपरेशनल दैट इज इंटरनल कंट्रोल्स, तो ऑपरेशनल पार्ट है। एनालिसिस ऑफ द रिजल्ट फॉर द फ्यूचर डिसीजन मेकिंग, इन दैट से वी अंडरस्टैंड इट्स द रेगुलर MIS दैट से वी प्रिपेयर, बेस्ड ऑन दैट से वी विल बी एबल टू नो दैट से जो भी हमने सोचा था उस हिसाब से सब कुछ हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है। एजेंसी थियरी और द की डिसीजंस फॉलोइंग विद इन द स्कोप ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल स्ट्रेटजी, लुकिंग टू दिस आल्सो इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चन बिल्कुल ही आ सकता है। फाइनेंशियल स्ट्रेटजी में से दे हैव इंक्लूडेड 4 थिंग्स। वन इज द फाइनेंसिंग डिसीजन, कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर थियरी में जो हम लोग पढ़ते हैं। सेकेंड इज द इन्वेस्टमेंट डिसीजन, कैपिटल बजटिंग। डिविडेंड डिसीजन उस पर हमने डिस्कस किया था, वॉल्टर मॉडल, गॉर्डन मॉडल, लिंटनर मॉडल, ग्रेहाम एंड डॉट मॉडल, मोदी गिलानी मिरर अप्रोच, इन सब का रेफरेंस देके भी हम लोग लिख सकते हैं। रेसिडुअल डिविडेंड पॉलिसी दैट इज द पेमेंट पॉलिसी, बोनस शेयर्स, ऑल दोस थिंग दैट्स वी कैन मेंशन, एंड पोर्टफोलियो डिसीजन। सो उसके बारे में उन्होंने डिस्कशन किया है। ऐसा करके हमारा फर्स्ट जो सेगमेंट था वो पूरा हुआ। सेकेंड इज द स्ट्रेटजीज एट द डिफरेंट हायरार्की लेवल्स, कॉर्पोरेट स्ट्रेटजी, बिजनेस स्ट्रेटजी एंड फंक्शनल स्ट्रेटजी। तो कॉर्पोरेट स्ट्रेटजी में कॉर्पोरेट स्ट्रेटजी शुड बी एबल टू आंसर द 3 बेसिक क्वेश्चन, सस्टेनेबिलिटी, फीजिबिलिटी और एक्सेप्टेबिलिटी। जैसे हमने आगे भी डिस्कस किया फ्रेंड्स, एट से ये सब चीज अच्छी तरह से मेंशन करना बहुत जरूरी है दीज आर द की वर्ड्स। इसको स्किप करके आप अगर सिर्फ जनरलाइज लिखोगे तो वो बिल्कुल ही नहीं चलेगा। योर आंसर हैज टू बी गोइंग से एग्जैक्टली टू द पॉइंट। बिजनेस यूनिट लेवल स्ट्रेटजी, उसमें स्ट्रेटेजिक बिजनेस यूनिट, उसके ऊपर उन्होंने थोड़ा एक्सप्लेनेशन दिया है। लाइक वी अंडरस्टैंड दैट से एक पूरा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, उसमें एक यूनिट को थोड़ा डिफरेंशिएट कर सकते हैं इन टर्म्स ऑफ सम प्रोडक्ट और इन टर्म्स ऑफ सम सर्विसेज, तो उसको एसबीयू वो लोग बोलते हैं। हैज अ डिस्टिंक्ट मिशन एंड द स्पेसिफिक टारगेट मार्केट, हैज कंट्रोल ओवर इट्स रिसोर्सेज, हैज इट्स ओन कॉम्पिटिटर्स, हैज प्लान इंडिपेंडेंट ऑफ द अदर एसबीयूज। स्ट्रेटेजिक बिजनेस यूनिट एसबीयू लेवल, तो जैसे हमने समझा था दैट से कोई एक कंपनी है जो डेस्कटॉप मैन्युफैक्चर करता है और वही जो कंपनी है वो लैपटॉप मैन्युफैक्चर करता है, तो दोनों का जो स्केल ऑफ द बिजनेस है वो अलग हो जाता है, दोनों के कॉम्पिटिटर्स अलग हो जाते हैं, दोनों के बिजनेस सेगमेंट अलग हो जाते हैं, ऐसा कुछ ये लोग यहाँ पे बता रहे हैं। So it is like the group of the firms competing with the same served market. Functional level, in that say there are 5 things that say they have included. I need not to repeat that. That say these key points are very important. Human resource, HR department, research and development, innovation के लिए, marketing, product हमारे sale करने के लिए, finance, that is what say we understand in detail, और fifth production. यानी ये सारा का सारा मिला जुला के से we will be able to run a company. उसके बाद फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग, there are say the 3 major components in the financial planning. The first is the financial resources, second is the financial tools, and the third is the financial goal. तो फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग एक इंडिविजुअल के लिए क्या हो सकता है, एक कॉर्पोरेट के लिए क्या हो सकता है, दैट इज व्हाट से दे प्रोवाइड। इंडिविजुअल के लिए उन्होंने ऐसा बोला था कि भाई फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग बनाने के लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा, भाई उनका डिटेल्स इकट्ठा करना पड़ेगा, उनके गोल्स समझने पड़ेंगे, उनका फाइनेंशियल सिचुएशन समझना पड़ेगा, फिर हमको एक प्लान बना के उनको देना पड़ेगा, एंड दैट इज द वे सो द प्लान इज टू बी इम्प्लीमेंटेड, एंड उसके बाद उसका मॉनिटरिंग होगा। फिर इंटरफेस ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल पॉलिसी एंड द स्ट्रेटेजिक मैनेजमेंट, तो पैसे से बात शुरू होकर सब पैसे के ऊपर बात अटकती है in a way that say whatever the return to the investor is say something which is important. Means of finance में उन्होंने 2 हिस्सा किया है, ओनरशिप और बोरोइंग। इक्विटी है, रिटेन अर्निंग है, और यहाँ पे प्रेफरेंस शेयर कैपिटल उन्होंने ओनरशिप पे लिखा है, बट प्रेफरेंस शेयर कैपिटल को हम लोग डेफिनेटली डेट प्लान में भी लिख सकते हैं। रादर डेट प्लान इज बेटर चॉइस इन माय ओपिनियन, बिकॉज फाइनेंशियल मैनेजमेंट में हमेशा प्रेफरेंस शेयर कैपिटल को बाहर वाला कंसीडर करके हम लोग सारे के सारे कैलकुलेशंस करते हैं, सारे के सारे डिसीजन मेकिंग समझते हैं। हमने बहुत सारा कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर थियरीज पढ़ा हुआ है अपने हमारे इंटरमीडिएट में। इन दैट्स अगर आपको याद है तो इक्विटी फाइनेंसिंग में सिर्फ इक्विटी और रिटेल अर्निंग ही आता है, इक्विटी फाइनेंसिंग में कभी भी प्रेफरेंस शेयर कैपिटल नहीं आता है। बोरोइंग शॉर्ट टर्म, लॉन्ग टर्म। शॉर्ट टर्म में 3 है, पब्लिक डिपॉजिट है, कैश क्रेडिट है, बिल्स पेएबल है, ट्रेड क्रेडिट है, ओवरड्राफ्ट है। लॉन्ग टर्म में डिबेंचर्स है और लॉन्ग टर्म लोन है। इंटरफेस ऑफ द फाइनेंशियल पॉलिसी एंड द स्ट्रेटेजिक मैनेजमेंट, उसमें डेट इक्विटी रेशियो, तो वो बैलेंस होना चाहिए, क्योंकि डेट इक्विटी रेशियो बढ़ेगा तो क्या होगा, ट्रेडिंग ऑन इक्विटी का फायदा मिलेगा, क्या होगा, लोअर रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट का फायदा मिलेगा, क्या नुकसान होगा, एक्सपेक्टेशन ऑफ इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर्स बढ़ेगा, फाइनेंशियल लिवरेज बढ़ेगा, द कंपनी विल बिकम मोर रिस्की। क्यों? क्योंकि अगर आपने पे नहीं किया डेट फाइनेंसर्स को तो आपका कंपनी वो लोग बंद करवा सकते हैं। इन्वेस्टमेंट एंड फंड एलोकेशन डिसीजन, डिविडेंड पॉलिसी, उसमें भी हमने डिटेल में डिस्कस किया कि हम लोगों को ये डिसाइड करना है, डिविडेंड पॉलिसी का मतलब प्रेफरेंस डिविडेंड नहीं होता है, सिर्फ और सिर्फ इक्विटी डिविडेंड होता है। बैलेंसिंग फाइनेंशियल गोल्स विद सस्टेनेबल ग्रोथ, तो ग्रोथ का हमने फॉर्मूला पढ़ा B इंटू आर का मतलब है रेट ऑफ अर्निंग, उसका कैलकुलेशन कैसे होता है, 3 चीज का मल्टीप्लिकेशन करके, नेट प्रॉफिट रेशियो, एसेट टर्नओवर रेशियो एंड इक्विटी मल्टीप्लायर। NP ratio is very simple, net profit upon sales. Asset turnover ratio is also simple, sales upon assets. And the third is the equity multiplier, assets upon equity. ऐसा करके ये तीन ratios का multiplication. Yeah, this is again an important question. That's what makes organization financially sustainable. क्या आप long term तक business कब कर पाओगे? You have more than one source of income. You have more than one way of generating income. Do strategic action and the financial planning regularly. Have adequate financial systems. Have a good public image. Be clear in its value, that is value clarity, and have financial autonomy. You are not dependent on numbers, that is the number of finance providers. You are having your own financing. ग्रोथ रेट का जो हमने समझा, सस्टेनेबल ग्रोथ रेट मॉडल अज्यूम्स सेम कैपिटल स्ट्रक्चर रहेगा, डिविडेंड पे आउट रेशियो सेम रहेगा, ऑल दोस थिंग्स जो हम लोग नॉर्मली करते हैं, दैट इज व्हाट दे हैव मेंशन्ड ओवर हियर. या दिस इज अगेन एन इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन सस्टेनेबल कैसे हो सकता है. It should be having the strategic direction, be able to scan the environment or context to identify the opportunities for its work, have an adequate administration and the financial infrastructure, be able to demonstrate its effectiveness and impact. All these things. Options available to the business owners and executive in each case are, यानी कि अगर ऑलरेडी यू हैव रीच्ड टू अ पॉइंट वेयर इन इट इज द मैच्योरिटी स्टेज और ग्रोथ का कम लग रहा है, देन इन दैट केस आप क्या कर सकते हो, यू पे डिविडेंड, यू हैव बाय बैक, आप अपना डेट फाइनेंसिंग कम कर सकते हो. दीज आर द थिंग्स. फिर उन्होंने एक केस का हमको बताया था मित्सुबिशी का. May 20 का RTP, उसमें क्वेश्चन नंबर 14A. Let us see a question from RTP May 20, question 14a. How financial goals can be balanced vis-a-vis the sustainable growth? The concept of the sustainable growth can be helpful for planning healthy corporate growth. This concept forces managers to consider the financial consequences of the sales increases and to sales the sales growth that are consistent with the operating and the financial policies of the firm. So the sales should grow, sales should increase. That is consistent with the operational and financial policies. Often a conflict can arise if the growth objectives are not consistent with the value of the organization's sustainable growth. Question concerning right distribution of the resources may take a difficult shape if we take into consideration rightness of not the current stakeholders but also the future stakeholders also. To take an illustration, let us refer to fuel industry. So we have discussed that the oil company discourages the existing customer to consume more. This is what they are focusing on the point of the sustainable growth rate. So you do not see only for today, but you also see for the tomorrow. Where resources are limited in the quantity and judicial use of the resources is needed to cater the need of the future customers along with the need of the present customers. One may have noticed that Save Fuel that is campaign, a demarketing campaign that deviates from the usual approach of the sales growth strategy and preaches for the conservation of the fuel for the use across generation. This is an example of the stable growth strategy adopted by the oil industry as a whole under resources constraint and long-run objective of survival over the years, so that they will be able to survive for a longer period of time. Because if at all they are focusing only on the present business, then in that case in future they will lose the business. Incremental growth strategy, profit strategy, pause strategy and other variants of the stable growth strategy. Sustainable growth rate is important to enterprise long-term development. Too fast or too growth will go against the enterprise growth and development. So financial should play an important role in the enterprise development. Adopt suitable financial policy initiative to make sure that enterprise growth speed close to the sustainable growth ratio and have sustainable healthy development. So it is exactly the same thing that what we have discussed earlier regarding the sustainable growth rate. Next, revisionary test paper November 20, in that question number 14a. Explain key decisions that fall within the scope of the financial strategy. So answer of the question is, the key decisions falling within the scope of the financial strategy are as follows. The first is a financing decision. Second is the capital budgeting investment decision, dividend decision and portfolio decision. So these are the four decisions that come within the scope of the financial strategy. These decisions deal with the mode of the financing or mix of the equity and debt. That is what we study in the capital structure theory. Investment decision is capital budgeting. These decisions involve the profitable utilization of the firm's funds, especially in the long-term projects, capital projects. That includes even the replacement of the machinery, expansion of the business, applying the concept of the capital rationing we are required to take a decision. All those things are involved over here. Since future benefit associated with such projects are not known with certainty, investment decisions necessarily involve risk. So friends, over here you can obviously write a few points with respect to the decision making techniques that you have, NPV, IRR, payback period, ARR, and so on. You can write also that the payback period is, or discounted payback period is measuring that say how is the liquidity of the project, how fast you are able to recover the funds that you are investing. The projects are therefore evaluated in relation to their expected return and risk. Dividend decision. These decisions determine the division of the earning between payment to the equity shareholders precisely and the reinvestment in the company. These decisions involve the evaluation of the investment based on their contribution to the aggregate performance of the entire corporation rather than the isolated characteristics of the investment themselves. And friends, over here, as I had discussed with you, you can always see that say what kind of correlation coefficient that say your businesses have with one another. If at all they have lower correlation coefficient, then it is good for you as an organization because it will reduce the risk. This is what we understand. Next question, revisionary test paper, May 2021, question number 14A. Explain the traits that an organization should have to make it financially sustainable. So, how can you have the financial sustainability? Those traits are required to be, say, mentioned by you. To be financially sustainable, an organization must have the following traits. 1. Having more than one source of the income. Second, more than one way of generating income. Strategic action and financial planning regularly. Adequate financial system. Good public image. To be clear about the values, value clarity, and have financial autonomy. These are the traits that will make you financially sustainable. Suggested answer of May 2018, question number 2C. Explain the interface of the financial policy and strategic management. The interface of the strategic management and the financial policy be clearly understood if we appreciate the fact that starting point of the organization is money and end point of the organization is also money. No organization run an existing business and promote a new expansion without suitably internally mobilized financial base or both. That is internally and externally mobilize the financial base. So we should be having a certain portion of the funds to be financed within the existing business only. Sources of the finance and the capital structure are the most important dimensions of the strategic plan. The need for fund mobilization to support the expansion activity of the firm is very vital for any organization. The generation of the funds may arise out of the ownership capital or for borrowed capital. A company may issue equity shares and or preference shares for mobilizing ownership capital, debentures for the borrowed funds. Policymakers should decide on the capital structure to indicate the desired mix of the equity and debt. There are some norms for the debt equity ratio. However, this ratio is in its ideal form varies from the industry to industry. This is very correct. That's the debt equity ratio optimum is changing from industry to industry, and I always believe that depending upon your own capability to bear the risk, you should be having the debt financing. Another important dimension of the strategic management and the financial policy interface is the investment and the fund allocation decisions. A planner has to frame the policies for regulating investment in fixed asset and for discerning of the current assets. Investment proposals mooted by different business units may be divided into three groups. One type of the proposal for addition of the new product. Second is increasing the level of operation of an existing product. And third is the cost reduction in efficient utilization of the resources through new approach and or closer monitoring of the different critical activities. That is what we understand is a cost re-engineering. Dividend policy is another area for making financial policy decision affecting the strategic performance of the company. A close interface is needed to frame the policy to be beneficial for all. Dividend policy decision deals with the extent of the earning to be distributed as dividend and extent of the earning to be retained for the future expansion. That's very correct. It may be noted from the above discussion that financial policy of the company cannot be worked out in isolation of the other functional policy. It cannot be different. It cannot be done separately. It has a wider appeal and a closer link with the overall organizational performance and direction of the growth. As a result, preference and the patronage for the company depends significantly on the financial policy framework. Hence, attention of the corporate planner must be drawn while framing the financial policies, not at a later stage, but during the stage of the corporate planning itself. Friends, over here, so this entire answer that you have to break up in certain points to remember from examination point of view. You have to develop a logical sequence and say based on that, say you're required to write the answer. Because these are the questions that you can see asked in examination by institute, and like these questions can come even in your examination. When it is starting point is money and ending point is money. That is the way you can remember the first point. Then, so the dividend policy, capital structure, debt equity ratio. That is the way you are required to say break up the entire answer. See, the answer is not so difficult, but understanding it from examination point of view and writing the relevant portion, that is the keywords, is very important. And of course we know that the theory is not voluntary now, it is mandatory because it is one of the three questions. Okay? One ABC, two ABC, in that the C question is usually the theory, 4 marks. So 16 marks is what minimum theory that you can expect, and 20 marks is a compulsory theory that you can expect from examination point of view. So from examination, suggested November 19 question 5C, discuss briefly key decisions falling within the scope of the financial strategy. It is a financing decision, investment decision, dividend decision, and portfolio decision. These decisions are falling within the scope of financial strategy. January 21 examination, question number 1C. As a financial strategist, you will depend on certain key financial decisions. Discuss. So it is same financing decision, investment decision, dividend decision, and portfolio decision. Friends, honestly, being practical, my always suggestion is to make sure that the questions which are repeatedly asked in examination, prepare them first. Preparing entire is, of course, that is what's the kind of preparation strategy that we should have, but at the same time we should be smart enough to understand that the questions which are frequently tested in examination, we should prepare them first. July 2021 examination question, question number 1C. State the strategy at the different hierarchy levels. That is the question. So, strategy at different hierarchy levels. In that, the corporate strategy, business that you should be in, business strategy, tactics to beat the competition, and functional strategy, operational methods to implement the tactics. So here, so these are the three strategies. In corporate level strategy, these are the three things that they have included. business unit strategy, that is so the SBU. These are the characteristics. And the last is the functional level. In that, say, these are the five things that say they have included. So there is a huge answer for the question that say they have asked in examination. So whatever is possible for you to write, you may write the things which is relevant, and if at all you are able to mention the head points properly, and in that relevant point, that is a portion that you mention is very appropriate, because again these kind of questions are having 4 marks weightage. Let us go through the module financial policy and the corporate strategy. So these are the 5 points that say we are supposed to learn. Strategic financial decision making framework, then functions of the strategic financial management. So these are the points on which they are focused. This is what's the most important question. Key decisions falling within the scope of the financial strategy. Then strategy at the different hierarchy levels. Corporate strategy, in that say these are the 3 things. Business unit level strategy and functional strategy. Over here they have reduced the content. Strategic business unit. Financial planning, in that say these are the 3 things. Then interface of the financial policy and strategic management. Balancing of the financial goal vis-a-vis growth rate. What makes organization financially sustainable? Then what makes sustainable and case of the misdistribution. These are the things that we have. Friends, you may be aware that that is say from May 20 onwards, a few chapters have been dropped by institute. So before May 20, whatever the examination has, that is the suggested answer that we have, and the revisionary test papers that we have contain certain questions which have been said, that is which belong to the chapters which are not part of the syllabus now. So question number 1C is cancer question for your syllabus. Question number 3C, discuss what do you understand about embedded derivatives. Assuming that your entire course is completed for SFM, we are making the discussion.